Well, partner, welcome to another episode of the podcast, the Round Table, talking to some great people today. How you been, brother?
I have been doing very well.
Summer's
been a little warm, but we're moving forward.
Well, we're getting back into having some discussions with our different units with the police department. Of course, Chesterfield County Police Department, Elliott Anderson. I'm Daryl Skinner. We'll be talking to two great people that are been with our police department for a little bit.
Absolutely. Both of our guests today, Lieutenant Grandinson and Detective Bowser, have years of experience in the police department and both currently work in and supervise in our investigations department. Section unit.
Oh, yeah, about our unit. And, of course, let's start with with our lieutenant. See how he's doing. Lieutenant Grandinson with Chesterfield County Police Department. You want to introduce yourself to us?
Sure. I'm Lieutenant Grandinson, and I'm very, very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh,
Thank you.
Good. And then we got one of my friends, Detective Bowser. He was up in investigation when I was there. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me today.
So we just want to go over a little bit about you all, and let's start with you, LT, and just give me a little bit about your history and how long you've been with the police department.
Sure. This is my 25th year with the department, believe it or not. I grew up in Richmond, and in fact, Jackson Ward. So ironic that I'm a police officer because that's not typically what we're thinking about while policing as a profession. Mm-hmm. But after graduating high school, back in '84, I was in the Navy for a stint for 6 years, and ultimately joined Chesterfield's police department. Currently, I work in crimes against property. The lieutenant there, and I work with about 20 awesome detectives.
Okay, so if we go back to patrol, where did you go from there before you became a lieutenant with the police department?
Sure, I hit the ground running when I came here. Spent many years in patrol, particularly on midnight shift, where all the action seems to take place. When I left patrol, I was a school resource officer. I worked with students who at the time were young and impressionable, and now I see them. They're driving cars, and many of them are working their jobs after college, and it's just great to see that. I worked at the police academy as a cadre there, and then a small stint in crime prevention. I've worked in forensics as an advanced forensic technician.
Okay.
And where here I am now.
Oh, so, wow. Awesome.
Yeah. So
awesome.
you've had a really good overview of the department and worked around the department. A lot of opportunity.
Sure, absolutely.
So when you talked about in forensic, were you a supervisor in forensics, or were you a tech?
Well, even now, police officers have an opportunity to be forensic technicians. But okay. I went a little bit further. I was very fortunate to be selected for the advanced technician school.
Oh, wow.
Which is what I did. So I did that for a little while. Sometimes I look back and I say, man, I didn't know where it was going at the time.
Right.
But I had an opportunity to do that, and so I've had a well-rounded career doing my stint here.
Oh, wow.
Now, I know one of the things during your career, Lieutenant Grandinson, is that education.
Sure.
I know you said you graduated in high school in '84. Can you share your educational path with our listeners?
Yeah, when I enlisted in the Navy, at nighttime, it depends on where I was stationed at, I always attended some type of school. It was my desire to do that. And just over the years, I've continued on to that. Eventually, I wound up getting a bachelor's degree. I was also fortunate here, and we had a program with University of Richmond. Mm-hmm. And so I got my master's degree from there, and then later on obtained my doctorate degree just a couple years ago during the pandemic, as you know. But I graduated from there back in 2020, and I'm in the fourth quarter of my career. So I'm looking to see what I can do to assist our community here, and then kind of just leave something behind for the younger people that are looking for direction.
Well, that Dr. Grandinson title sure does sound good.
But the thing I do like about it is you also are giving back to our community through our youth. You're still a mentor and helping the young people figure out what they want to do in life and give them that confidence in being who they want to be and finding their gifts, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my drive. I mentor with a couple of different nonprofits, Big Brothers in Richmond. and mega mentors here in Chesterfield County. I'll be starting this year with those guys. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Awesome.
And why I got this opportunity, I just want to, for those listeners out there who want to mentor, there's a lot of young people out there who are looking for direction and leadership. And when you have the opportunity to do that, I just think you should make yourself available in the system.
Good for you. Good for you.
All right, Detective Bowser, let's hear
get
about
to
your
the
background.
real work. Here's a work. Let's do some work.
So I graduated from Red Bank Valley High School in Pennsylvania back in 1996. Went to Edinburgh University near Erie, PA. Got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice there. I was in the National Guard there while I was in school. Completed my 6 years of that after I moved here. I actually found out about this job through another officer that graduated before me.
Okay.
So she put me in contact with Tim Lamb. I contacted him. I ended up taking a test in Pittsburgh and ended up going through the process and coming here. I've been here almost 21 years now.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'll be 21 in September. So spent most of my time in the first part of my career in patrol, North Evening Shift. Worked a lot of Midlothian Turnpike. Spent a lot of time working accidents and domestics. At the end of 2007, I ended up getting selected to go to investigations. Went to larceny from auto, spent 2.5 years there when we had the larceny from auto unit, and then transferred over to crimes against persons, was there for 6 years, and then finally transferred over to fraud, and I've been there for the past 6 years.
Awesome.
And we do a lot of recruiting in Edinburgh.
Yes.
They have a really big criminal justice program there. They're very much in tune with making sure that students have job opportunities. And they really make themselves available. I think right now we probably have 5 or 6 officers in the department from Edinburgh,
Okay.
which is really good.
So right now, Lieutenant, you oversee the fraud unit, the larceny units, crimes against person, pretty much. One of the lieutenants up there, or in charge of that unit up there. So what we want to talk about is, right now we've been having problems in one of the specialized units, meaning the larcenies from vehicles, if I'm correct. I know we don't have specific officers just for larceny from vehicles. Do we do that? Do we still have that? So give us what we can do to better ourselves or our community, because we like this partnership thing that we got police, we got our community. They give us information. We try to help them out as far as deterring crimes from happening, things of that sort. So give me what's going on right now, the trends that we have going on right now.
Well, unfortunately, there's several trends going on right now. But if to be more specific, you talk about the larceny from auto. These are simple, very, very simple things that citizens can do to prevent that from happening. Because all the offenders really want to do, they want to jump in your car real quick so they can move on to the next one. So that means locking your car. A lot of times we get complacent. Nothing typically happens in our mind and in our
community.
in our neighborhood.
Exactly.
So you get used to just leaving your car unlocked, and even further for some who leave the keys in the car, and it makes it very, very easy for offenders to come in, especially when the weather is warm. I mean, it's very simple to do. You can hit 30, 40 cars a night. You get a kid out on a warm night that is not interested in staying in his house. You go walking around just grabbing car handles. Getting inside, they're looking for money. They're looking for purses. They're looking for guns, laptops, cell phones, whatever is in that car. They're gonna take them and then they're gonna move on to the next one.
Go ahead. Are these larcenies just happening at night?
No, they can actually happen at any time. If you go up there to the town center. You do the same. You have the same type of behavior in the daytime. They're walking around. There are people walking around, just grabbing on car handles. Don't be surprised when you pull up in your car and too focused on what you're doing, because every time I go up there and when I drive and I park my vehicle, they're all look around. There are people just sitting in cars, and some of them are just sitting there because they're waiting on us. But there are some up there who have nefarious intentions. So you just have to be aware of your surroundings.
Give me what plain view that if you're keeping your purse or you're keeping items, computers in your front seat of your car, are those target cars?
Absolutely, they're very easy targets. As I mentioned, the offenders they want a real quick grab. Okay. So they're looking for the vehicle that's left unlocked. However, if there's a purse that's sitting right there, they know there's something that they really want. They will break your window for that.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and probably just in a second we'll talk about the Felony Lane Gang.
Okay.
And one of the things they do, and I mentioned these guys here, they are notorious, and they get all over the country. But not only do they take your purse and other personal belongings, but they'll take things like credit cards.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Detective Bowser will talk about this in a second. But immediately they're going to put those credit cards to use, debit cards or whatever, so they'll make purchases that are in the immediate area. They want to use those things before you realize that they've been taken.
And think about that gang, the Felony Lane Gang, are coming out of other areas of the states.
Sure.
So it's a group of them, and that's been going on for at least 10 years.
Many years now.
Many years now. Okay.
And Detective Bowser, I know you have experience from working in the larceny from auto group. I know that we know collectively that there's no particular profile that meets a person who breaks into a car. It's mostly a crime of opportunity, and like Lieutenant Grandinson said, they see it, they try to take it. What was your experience when you worked in that unit?
It was about the same, and I mean, a lot of the suspects that we dealt with at the time were juveniles.
Right.
Going out at night, they just go pull on car doors, check and see what's in there. If they saw something in there, they took it. People leave their guns in their car. They leave it unlocked. They leave their wallets. Anything of value, they leave in the car, and it, like you said, it's just a crime of opportunity. They go in and they steal it. Felony Lane Gang, same thing. They don't care. They'll smash out a window in a heartbeat, and especially to take a purse. For all the women that are going to the gym or going to daycare and dropping their kids off, don't leave your purse in the car. They'll smash out the windows, and by the time you report it, your checks, if there's any in there, they're already being used. Your ID is being used, and your credit cards.
Yep.
And for us, I mean, it's when they do that, they're usually hitting another jurisdiction at that time and using your information.
And we've been getting, and I know when I was in investigation, we were getting information that they were in Henrico County, and by the time we get the information, they have done a crime or something in Chesterfield, and use the ID to go and get money out of the bank or use it to purchase something. So this thing has been going on, like I say, for many years. How can we prevent that from happening? I mean, you stole it, you got it out of my car. How do the fraud unit get involved in that now?
So the fraud unit typically doesn't get involved in the Felony Lane Gang aspect of it. That's usually property crimes that deals with them. But the times that we do get involved in it, we're working with the other jurisdictions to help try to identify the suspects as quickly as we can. Biggest thing is if you have your purse stolen, first thing you do check with their bank, call them, tell them, hey, look, my stuff's been stolen. I need to report it stolen. So that way, in case it does come through somewhere else, their bank can be notified and they can take care of you. And that way the other bank can notify that jurisdiction and let them know, hey, we got these folks here. This is a stolen check.
Okay.
But I know one of the questions we get, and I got this a couple of weeks ago with someone, if the person lives here in the county, but the fraud is taking place in Virginia Beach or Texas or somewhere, can they still make the report through us?
They can make the report through us. I mean, we'll take the report. Typically, though, we'll refer it over to the other jurisdiction and try to get them to take it. Sometimes it's not as easy. The victims feel like they're getting passed back and forth because the other jurisdiction will say, well, you live in Chesterfield. You need to report it through them.
Sure.
And a lot of times they'll accept the report from us. We'll send it to them, and they can work it from there if they have any suspects.
Okay.
I know in looking at our statistics that our larceny from autos from 2020 to 2021 were down, as well as motor vehicle theft stayed the same. But one of my major concerns with larceny from auto are the number of stolen weapons. I know in last year we had 355 weapons stolen out of vehicles, primarily handguns. Only about 40 of those, 38 of those were rifles or shotguns. We really need the public to secure their weapons and not leave them in vehicles because these weapons end up in hands used in other crimes. I know that we have also put up not billboards, but mobile signs in our parks and things like that. Without giving away techniques, Lieutenant Grandinson, what are some of the other aspects of prevention that we do that is proactive that the public may not know about?
Okay, one of the things let me just go back to what you were saying about the number of weapons that are taken, and it's very, very disturbing. As you know, then nationally, there's just been this debate about actually legally obtaining weapons. Well, if citizens were aware of the number of weapons that were left in unlocked vehicles, that are people just going around, and I mentioned, we talked about this earlier, they were just taking these guns every single day. We come in, we're reviewing these reports. Citizens would be very surprised to hear the number of guns that are out there because they're just left in vehicles, unlocked vehicles, or they're left in the areas where someone walking by, they can actually look in there and see the gun. Or once someone gets in the car, they know where people typically leave their weapons, so they just reach in once they're inside and take the guns. If there's no reason, if you don't have a purpose to carry a weapon, particularly in a car, then leave it at home and leave it locked up or put somewhere secure where no one can get to it. But as a result of these types of crimes, they lead to other more serious crimes that take place. The shootings that you see. Yes. We often come across these offenders who've been arrested for one reason, and they just happen to have a weapon that's been reported stolen in another jurisdiction. This commonly takes place. So if you could lock them up, or if you could leave them at home, I highly suggest that citizens do that.
But are you seeing, and you talk about guns, and Mike, you might want to be part of this as well. If you have a gun that's stolen from a vehicle, and then you have a homicide or a shooting in the county, have you matched any of that and saying where this gun was traced and originally came from a vehicle? Do we do that?
Sure.
Don't have to give up that case right now.
Okay, yeah.
But that's something that the people have to be mindful of, that when you leave these guns in your vehicles and they are broken into and stolen, that a youth or a young person or whatever get a hold of that gun. Next thing you know, a party goes down or something happens, and next thing you know, that same weapon has been used in an injury or shooting in our county. That's real. That makes us think about, this ain't just a property crime anymore. It's right. It's a homicide or seriously injured crime, assault.
Well, Darryl, as you know, in your illustrious career, criminals don't normally stick to one type of crime. Exactly. So if they're breaking into cars, or if they're out there committing homicides, and they have to support what they're doing. They have to travel around, so they're stealing cars. They're doing all types of things. Exactly. So one of the things we have to be able to do, working in property crimes, is collaborate with other jurisdictions, and not just other jurisdictions, but our own teams inside the building, including the analysts who are able to look at this data. And I got a report earlier today from Fredericksburg. We have some other activity that's going on. I'll be talking about that later today with the local media. So,
oh wow.
So we're constantly in collaboration and partnering with our communities to get this information out there.
Okay.
So larceny from auto, we've established, is a multifaceted crime. People don't just steal one thing out of a car and that's it, but then they may go on to commit a fraud with a credit card. And I know Detective Bowser now works in our fraud unit, and so we want to talk about some of that, because we've seen seniors losing money, things like that. Can you share some of the cases or type of incidents that the public needs to be aware of?
All right, so some of the biggest trends that we see is our elderly population. They get taken advantage of quite a bit. And there's many different frauds that can occur, not just credit card frauds, or their stuff stolen out of the car, the checks used, stuff like that. Typically with the elderly citizens, they get a lot of phone scams or computer scams. Somebody, they may be on their computer and they get a pop-up saying, hey, your computer's infected. Call this number. Well, they call that number thinking it's somebody from like Microsoft or some other computer company, and they end up talking with somebody. That person gives them gets access to their computer, and they go in and they're able to go through their bank account and stuff like that, and be able to transfer money out, and then they'll transfer money from like the savings into their checking.
Sure.
And tell them, oh look, you have a duplicate transfer here. So what they'll do is they'll get onto the person's bank account, they'll withdraw that money, and the person thinks it's some error on their end, and it turns out it's their actual money that's being stolen.
Wow.
Phone scams, a lot of people get called saying their relatives in jail and they need bail money.
Wow.
Well, instead of that person, the victim, calling their family member to verify this stuff, they go do what they're told and go and pick up like gift cards, or they'll go and get cash, and they'll get that the gift card or the cash to the person on the other end of the phone. What we've been seeing lately is when they get these phone calls and they're getting the person's demanding cash, they go and get cash, and then somebody comes to the house and picks up the cash for them, and then it gets sent off some other way. And a lot of times the victim doesn't get a license plate, doesn't get us a real good description for anything for us to go on in order for us to do anything. A lot of times with the phone numbers that these folks are calling from, they're calling from voice over IP numbers, which is basically a burner number off the computer. We can subpoena the records, but the only thing it's really going to show is an IP address and where it may be coming from.
And a lot of these crimes, the criminals, are happening out of the country, outside of our jurisdictional boundaries in other countries around the world. So the odds of recovering that money are pretty much 0 to none.
Right.
It's very slim. On the off chance that we catch it quick enough, sometimes we're able to get the banks to stop transfers or return money. It depends. I had one case a couple years ago where a woman sent over about $350,000 to somebody who she thought she was in a relationship with that contacted her, I think it was through Facebook. She sent a $100,000 check at one point, or wired it actually, to an account, a Chase account in Ohio. Well, that money was then transferred somewhere else and then transferred again. And, before we can even track where it's going, it's already out of the country or mixed in with some other funds. She sent the second payment, and we caught it quick enough where we contacted that bank and said, freeze that, don't let any money go out. And her bank was able to recall that money. So we were able to save her at least $100,000 that she sent. Sometimes we don't get that lucky. By the time it's reported to us, it's already gone.
Sure. And I have seen where people have gone locally to banks here in Chesterfield that the clerk, the bank teller, catches something is wrong. Why are you withdrawing this money? And I assume that they can have accounts set up. So hey, if my parent comes in to do this dollar amount, then it will trigger, hey, you got to stop. We got to call your daughter, call your son. So I guess I'm saying that to encourage people who have older parents to put those controls in place before it becomes an issue.
There's always a chance that your elderly parents can get scammed. So the best thing you can do is talk with your parents and sit down and work out a plan where somebody is the power of attorney over the account, and work it out with the bank in order to have some of those safeguards in place. Some banks will do it. Some banks catch it, some banks don't. It just kind of depends on the system that they have. But there's usually notes in the account that would generate some sort of question from the teller at the bank.
Right.
Now, we like to get into, and again, I love the part about talking about the prevention part of it, what we're doing with the police department, the partnership that we have with our community. But we got to ask about your wellness. We like to talk about how you guys are doing, what are you doing, instead of just doing police 24/7. I have hobbies. I know Elliott has hobbies. So what keeps you coming every day? What keeps you motivated and giving back to our community and your jobs? And Mike, I'll start with you, Detective.
I've always been a caring person. I try to engage with my victims as much as I can. And try to help them out as best I can. I mean, there's a lot of times where I have to tell them there's nothing I can do, but I try to also think outside the box and try to help them out. That's what kind of keeps me coming into work, is being able to, knowing that I'm able to help somebody one way or the other, whether it's arresting somebody or just, pulling some strings with the bank or doing something to be able to get their money back.
So what happens when you're off? And then you're off. You're not the Detective Mike anymore. You with your family.
Sometimes it's hard to shut off sometimes. I know when I was in persons crimes, it was very hard to shut off because you were worried about the severity of the cases that you had. I had several cases that I'll carry with me until I'm done. Yep. That it makes it hard to separate, but when I do, separate from that lifestyle, it's I'm spending time with my family. It's, going to the drive-in out in Goochland to watch movies with my kids, or, going kayaking with my wife.
Oh, good.
Taking my son fishing, or, whatever, just to kind of get away from it all.
Good.
Sometimes it's not easy, because sometimes even with your personal cell, you're getting phone calls.
Oh, yeah.
Getting questions from somebody about a case or something like that. So
it's hard to shut down.
Yeah, it is very hard to shut down at times.
LT?
You asked a great question, because year after year, police officers are right there at the top of suicides.
Right.
Every single year. If the public knew the number of officers that commit suicide each year, they would stop us from doing business, and they would determine themselves to find out exactly what is the cause of that.
Right.
And one of the things in law enforcement is this stigma thing, and officers who are struggling a little bit have a hard time asking for help. What I've seen here in this department is a change from the trend.
Right.
And it began maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. And there's a focus here on wellness. And we are encouraged, if there's an individual officer who needs assistance or just wants to talk, we're encouraged to find people. We have a peer support unit. We have a dedicated department psychologist who's willing to help. But then there are several people who don't have titles who are interested in helping their colleagues out. So taking an advantage of this type of service and just being open and honest about how you feel is very, very important, especially in this profession. Let me just go back to those were great things that Detective Bowser pointed out that he did to kind of help with the stress. And you have to be concerned about that, because these things just compound. You're talking 25 years that I've been around. A lot of times people leave this job and never, over during the course of that time, never really sat down and thought about all the struggles and stressors that they've had to deal with over the years. And then when they're out of law enforcement, they don't have the surroundings that they typically have. You've been stripped of the title of police officer. Yep. So you're just out there, and there's no numbers. There is no groups that follow the number of retired officers who commit suicide or have these health problems, because they never addressed these issues when they were active duty.
Right.
So it's a great question. One of the things that I do personally, you have to have a spiritual life.
Yep.
And there's got to be a drive. There's got to be a purpose. And I talked about mentoring when we began the show. But for me, my daughter, my little girl, I tell you what, and when I leave here, yes, I'm thinking about going home, and I just want to be with my daughter. Sure. And spending time with her, and just talking about things, playing basketball. She loves playing basketball. She's been on the team at her middle school for the last couple of years. And she's a great piano player. She just has a knack for doing things that I never tried to do when I was a kid. She's even taught herself how to play the guitar. So
wow,
those are the type of things that I look forward to doing.
Yes, and you're right. You have to have a way, and Mike, you have mentioned it as well, to turn this thing off. Mm-hmm. You got to find a way to turn it off, because if you don't, it will. Being a retiree myself, and coming back and helping them out. But I have, like you said, my spiritual growth, other things that I do with my time with my family is very important for our wellness. So I commend both of you all for having that. Go ahead, partner.
We do want to thank the public today, because a lot of the crimes, when we have larceny from idle, like Lieutenant Grandinson and Detective Bowser said, it's not just one isolated incident, it's numerous through a neighborhood.
Yes.
And our detectives come out and canvass the neighborhood, or uniform operations patrol officers come out and canvass the neighborhood looking for video and those type of things. And we're really appreciative of the public who turn that information over to us to help us solve these crimes. They call our Crime Solvers number, which is 804-748-0660, to help us assist in solving these crimes. Those banks, those bank tellers, those caregivers who really give us insight on what's going on. I mean, a lot of the crimes we solve, especially purchase crimes come from tips from
Exactly,
the public,
exactly.
and we value that.
Man, this has been a good one.
It has
we,
been.
We could
It has
actually talk for another 20 minutes, but we're not because I got the bosses looking at us like we have a problem.
We'd also like to remind our public that we also, tips not only come in through that 748-0660 number, but also through our P3 Tips app, which is p3tips.com/699.
Oh, wow.
That's the way a lot of the young people give us those tips, and it's all confidential, and we value
We
that.
really are going to a different level because this is new to me.
That's new. That's new. Hey, the technology's here and the department's moving, but we want to thank Lieutenant Grandinson and Detective Bowser
Thank
for
you.
coming in today.
What a great show, man. Great
great
show.
show.
We can
Great
continue
show.
this one. I like this one.
Different aspect of policing that most
Sure.
people don't think about because, a lot of frauds don't make the news unless
Exactly.
it's something big.
Exactly. Well, partner, another good one. I mean, we appreciate our production team.
Absolutely. Chris Rizzuti, Lena
They do
Shaduli
an
in the
excellent job of
background
keep
here.
making us look good or no,
Absolutely.
sound good. I like that. How about that? That's better.
We'd like to remind our listeners that we're still recruiting police officers and lateral police officers to join us here in Chesterfield County. Simply go to joinccpd.org to apply for those positions and to learn out the details and come on board.
Definitely.
You can follow our podcast on all of our social media outlets, and we look forward to our next episode.
My partner. Good job.
Good job.
Excellent. Great one.